Welcome to the latest business. I can't even get my words out today. Welcome to the latest Busienss Spotlight interview. Today, I'm really pleased to be joined by Alicia Barlow. Welcome, Alicia.
Hiya, thanks for having me.
I think it's going to be one of those days where I'm getting in my tongue twisted
Put your
every
teeth
time you
in.
speak. So we've got about 15 minutes, Alicia. It's going to be a quick interview, and this interview is designed so we can help the listeners to learn a little bit more about business, to learn a little bit more about your business, your challenges and successes, so they can take that and apply it to their own businesses. Our audience are mainly business owners or aspiring business owners who want to learn more about how to run a successful business. So I thought we'd just get started by talking about you and your businesses. Tell me about the story that you've gone through to get to where you are now from when you first started your first business.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So it's still ongoing, and I still think and I still feel that I'm still in the infancy of what I'm trying to create. So I went through school as normal, uni, did a qualification in accountancy. I am a qualified accountant, but I'm not part of any sort of membership anymore. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into business for myself. So my first business that I started from scratch was a property business, which is a property portfolio, residential and commercial. And the way that I conduct all my businesses, there seems to be sort of a thread that goes through. It has to be high end and high impact as well. That's really what I want to do. So I take the worst house on the best street and I convert it into something that someone can make a home. And that's our tagline is making houses homes. Because ultimately, regardless of whether you're renting or you live there, you have to make it a home for the tenants, and they have to be comfortable, they have to be safe, and they have to feel the stability there. And I think the last few years has shown, especially with the price rises, and there's been a lot of landlords exiting the market, realizing the values and the capital that they've had over the last 10 to 15 years. Equally, we're being squeezed with a lot of legislation that's coming through, particularly if a property is held in your personal name. Section 24 has put that down. Quite a few landlords have started to sell, but they've sold with tenants in situ. And our niche over the last few years has been to buy assets which have a tenant in situ and an income from day one. We've realised that asset, we've done the work that's required, we've got it up to standard in terms of compliance. And in return, the tenant would pay us a nominal increase in their rent up to market value. And it's a win-win for everyone. So that's really the same thread that I've done throughout the businesses that I've got. So we went into more sort of asset-backed businesses purely from a cash flow perspective, because the cash flow is better, the opportunities are better, and you equally, not just, in most circumstances, you can buy a freehold property as part of the deal for a business, because that's usually where the business is operating from. So it was something that I identified quite early on into 2020, where I said, I want to get more involved in this. And with the pandemic, sadly, there were more opportunities that arose because of that. So we could take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah. So just for those people who maybe aren't as au fait with business lingo, by asset back, do you mean though like somebody that's got a property that's got real value?
Either commercial or residential, or a mix of the two.
Yeah.
Because that is where the business operates from. So we have a care home which was purchased, which is the asset is the home, and the business is what operates within that home. And we bought that as a going concern, as a whole business, which included the asset.
So when did you buy the care home?
So that was October 22.
Right.
So as recently as that. Our latest acquisition is the bakery, which was December 22. And in between all that, I'm a strategic partner on the board for a number of businesses, developers and other businesses that need that sort of second set of eyes to review numbers for them, give them strategic information and advice. Just because from my perspective, I think a lot of business owners are able to either do the work or invest in the business, but don't have a full, clear picture of how that business should run. And they don't understand the forecasting. They don't understand or realise the relevance and the importance of having forecasts. And like we said before, an exit plan. I always say to anyone that I start to work with, what is your exit plan? Because when you buy a business, you should always have that already set out, even if it's just a plan. And, you don't have to, it's not a prescription that you stick to day by day, but having that gives you a goal to get your business up to a point where when you sell it, you can sell it in its best possible condition to an investor who can then take the reins quite easily. It just makes it more valuable. It makes it more attractive. And equally, that's the whole point. Everyone goes into business. It's not just to create another job for yourself, because you might as well be creating another 10 when you own your own business and you're working in it. You like you said before, you'd be better off just going in a job somewhere else with less risk and less responsibility and more flexibility in time. Even
So
if you were working a 40-hour week, that's nothing.
So you own and manage property, but you're not an estate agent or a builder. You have a bakery, but you're not a baker. And you've got a care home, but you're not a nurse or a care worker. And you also wear your sort of CFO's hat, maybe as a non-exec or a director in several other companies as well.
Yeah.
I think the key to all that is having a business, but not actually working in it, isn't it?
Absolutely. That gives me the time to do what I enjoy, and I can pick and choose the clients that I work with, which is nice as well. Because, there are certain clients that once you meet them first time, you can't help them, because if they're not receptive and they're not open to listening or open to new ideas, I just wouldn't waste my time. And that's 95% of the clients that I usually meet, prospective clients. So, it's hard to try and change how people's perceptions are of their own business when they're so entrenched in it, because it's their baby, and it almost feels like you're coming across that you're giving them a hard time and you're pointing out all the negatives, but it's only the negatives that a potential buyer in the future would point out anyway.
Yeah.
So it's almost like trying to communicate that and get that across in the best way possible. And 5% of the time it works, and 95% it doesn't. But I'd say 80% of them come back after a few months when they realise actually it's the kind of medicine I need to take.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it happens.
So what are your aspirations for the next 5 years for your business or businesses? We'll lump them all under one and say your business.
Yeah.
Your business is as an investor, really. So what are your aspirations for the next 5 years?
I'd love to continue to do more of the same. We've been looking within staple industries, so not just recession proof, but where it's quite people heavy. I think one of the biggest things I've learned throughout my career and throughout the businesses that I buy, it's always about the people. We've looked for what we call the Amazon proof businesses. So, it's those ones that you can't really take online. So you can't go and get your hair cut online. There's certain things you can't do, like funeral directors, things like that. The care homes, the food and drink that we offer is artisan and handmade and handcrafted. There is a market for that still. And we almost, like I said before, we position ourselves at high end, high quality. So we want to say, look, we're the Rolls Royce of that industry. That's how we position ourselves. So we're not everyone's cup of tea, but there is a market for what we do. And from my perspective, in terms of risk, it reduces that risk for the going concern of the business and the exit plan too. Yeah.
And in terms of exit plans, the businesses that you buy, are you on a plan to make them more profitable and then exit the businesses again?
So usually what we would do is we would buy the business to hold for at least 10 years. That's kind of the aim of what we have. Any investment that we make. So I don't like to talk about return on investment. I talk about return of investment. So, what have I invested in this business on day one? And how do I realize that investment at least within the next 5 years?
Yeah.
If that's not possible, then there's a change in the price, or there's a change in the terms of how we do the deal. Or we just walk away completely. But we look at sort of a 10-year plan with the idea of holding the asset. So as before we said, we buy the asset, which obviously home is a home for the business. What we would do in that scenario is we would just sell the business leasehold, retain the freehold property, and just become then the commercial landlord for that business. Yeah. And then it means we can vet any tenant that we get through the door. Because at the moment we are our own tenants, so we're quite trustworthy. So you just want to make sure you've got the sustainability there. So for the next 10 years, I know we're always going to get paid our rent.
Yeah.
And we're going to look after the building. But after that, then it'll be a case of we need to do some due diligence on anyone that wants to come in and buy the business. Yeah.
And how do you find those investments, those companies that you've bought so far and the future companies that you're looking for? How do you go out and find those?
I just tell everyone what I do. I speak to people. Even like you, Paul, you work with businesses every day. I could say to you, these are the particular businesses I'm looking to buy in, and you might have a client who turn around and says, Paul, I'm looking to sell my business. And then the first thing you think of is Alicia buys businesses. And that is pretty much how we've done every single acquisition that we've ever done, including all of the residential properties in the portfolio. It's about relationships. It's about having clear message, you know, and being trustworthy and acting on what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it. We work with a lot of private investors as well. So not just our own funds that fund these deals. We work with other business owners who have potentially money that's available to invest, and they would look to do that with us. And we can demonstrate to them that we're a safe investment and they get a decent return. And I think the bit I love about that is, yeah, we do work with banks. Yeah, we all do. But for me, I'm making a difference to someone else's life, not just putting it in the back pocket of a big corporation that doesn't really, it's faceless, doesn't really mean anything. You know, I've worked with investors who've been able to put their kids through private school with the fees that we pay.
Yeah.
So that for me is something that I'm adding back, and it's that, again, that win-win that I mentioned before. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, we talked off air about the response that you would sometimes get from a business owner at the value that you place on the business as opposed to the value that they put on the business.
Yeah.
What are the biggest mistakes that you see from other business owners in business who want to build an asset but then don't have a business that's worth as much as they think it is?
They're just not getting the right advice at the right time. I think there has to be a budget for a robust financial team, for someone who can come in and, like myself or someone very similar, who can help them understand the numbers, because you can't make an informed decision if the numbers aren't accurate. I mean, look at Man City. Even Man City isn't, you know, they're not going to get away with anything, even though they are one of the biggest and richest clubs in the world. But they've had the wrong advice, or they've taken the wrong advice, or they've just ignored the advice they've been given. You know, so it gets you in hot water eventually. And I think, going back to what we were saying before, a lot of people set up companies because they think, I can save tax, I can do this, my accountant told me to. Why is that though? Nobody questions the why, and no one fully understands as a director what their responsibilities are within the business. The number of businesses that I see across my desk for sale where they've got overdrawn director loan accounts, and effectively what that means is the directors, the shareholders, and the business are completely separate from each other, and they've been borrowing from that business to fund a lifestyle that the business isn't capable of doing. It's just not making enough money or profit. So then they're in a position where they owe the business money and then can't sell it because they have to put X amount in just to get rid of it to a net zero position. And they don't understand that. You know, they have an accountant, but they don't have someone who is a strategic partner working with them in the business. I'm quite lucky that that's me in my businesses, but equally there are other people in other areas that I work with who are my professional team. You know, legal team, insurance team, brokers in different areas, banks, investors, all these key stakeholders who I've over the years managed to bring around me, who also do give me advice and help from time to time in some of the things that I'm doing. Because I don't sit here and say I know everything, because I don't. I've not experienced everything. I don't know everything. But if I have a challenge or a problem, I do know who I need to ring to get that sorted. You know, I have someone on the end of the phone who can help me. So that for me is the biggest thing you can possibly invest in before anything else, yourself and your team. Yeah.
I think if there's two pieces of advice that I've heard in the past, number one is surround yourself with people who are better than you at doing things. You know, one of the most popular business owner interviews I ever heard was a business owner who was asked why they were as successful as they were, and it said, we always hire people who are better than me at doing things. And the other one is that you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you want to get better at something, surround yourself with people who are better at it than you are.
Absolutely.
Alicia, I don't know where the last 15 minutes has gone, but
No, it's gone fast.
We've got a couple of minutes left, so I just want to fire a couple of quick fire questions to you, if that's all right.
Yeah,
what's been your single biggest learning as a business owner since you started out?
The biggest learning is about the people, and making sure, like I said, you surround yourself with the people that you can trust, but don't lose faith in the ones that don't work out. I think it's always, that's life, whether regardless if that's personal or business, and you know, people do blindside you. You are surprised by certain things, but ultimately, I think one of the biggest lessons of that is you're ultimately responsible for anything that happens to you and your business, and you've just got to take that on the chin and have the mindset to think, well, next time I need to do something different. But not not just completely close yourself off from opportunities in the future. Yeah.
And for our younger listeners, do you have any advice for your 18-year-old self?
Yeah, do it sooner. Do more and do it sooner. That was really what I would say. A lot of people ask me this, so I've done interviews for many podcasts and things like that, and it's always the same. Like, what would you do differently? It's not different. I'd just do more of what I've already done and sooner. Because the sooner you start, I mean, you can be 10 years in, only 28, and have built a portfolio of businesses or properties, or, you know, amassed, you know, a community, you know, a connection with people who can help you. Like you say, you surround yourself with the right people from a young age. You could be miles and decades ahead of everyone else in your age bracket, and doing the things you really want to do with the life that you've been given and that you've got left. Because life is so short, and you get to this age and you think, where the hell did that last 20 years go? And I've only got another 20 years and I'm going to be old. So yeah, make the most of it.
Brilliant. And finally, are there any particular books that you've read, or podcasts, or people that you follow that you think would be useful for other people in business right now?
Yeah, anything Warren Buffett writes. And mainly because he's the king of the get rich slow, and that is how it works. I mean, there's so many kids I see at YouTube or Google, whatever it is, the search engines they use these days. I think the search would be, how do I get rich quick? It must be, you know. And the problem you have is there's a lot of courses and people and gurus, as I call them, fake gurus out there who will prey on that, take thousands of pounds from them and teach them absolutely nothing, teach them something they've never even done themselves and never have any intention to. I think so. That for me would be, you know, anything that is, it seems too good to be true, it normally is. So yeah, anything by Warren Buffett, I think he's quite pragmatic, and his approach has always been really inspiring to me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Alicia, that's been a fantastic 15 minutes.
Yeah,
If people want to get in touch with you or follow what you do, what's the best way for them to find you?
Oh, the easiest probably way is LinkedIn. I'm Alicia Barlow on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. So the bakery is Hunters the Bakers, or you have my property portfolio, which is Property Solutions Bolton. There's Facebook, Alicia Barlow, and same again, Property Solutions Bolton, Rose Alexander, which is on there. Yeah, and I am around, so people will probably see me bobbing in and out. So yeah, I'm always around Bolton.
Good stuff. Well, we'll put all those links on the show notes, and if people want to get in touch, they can do. Alicia,
Yeah,
thank you very much. It's been really interesting talking to you. Have a great week.
thanks, Paul. You too.